Well, hello ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem, and a lot of you piped up in one of the previous videos and said you would love to see my watercolour collection, so that is exactly what we're going to do today. If you want to call me an enabler, that's fine, but yeah, so we've got a lot to get on with, so we're just going to get to top-down view and we can get going. Just quickly before we get started, if you would like to vote for what the next Stash series set of videos is going to be on, the short list of all the suggestions has been put together and you can now vote on your favourite from that short list. So if you either head to the community tab on the channel, or if you're more of a Facebook kind of person, the poll is also over there on Facebook, so you can vote there as well. Okay, as I said, a lot to get through. Just to put you in the picture, or the bigger picture, I have here some pre-printed images. This is one of Julia Kay's colouring pictures on watercolour paper and a couple of watercolour postcards. And it's just in case we decide to get creative as we go through this journey of looking at all the watercolours. I've also got two traditional paintbrushes, a water brush, a rag to wipe my brushes on, two clean pots of water, a pot for dirty water, and some peach and raspberry juice, which I won't be dipping my paintbrush in. Okay, I've also got some scraps of watercolour paper here, and I want to use these first because the first supply that we're going to look at technically isn't a watercolour, and the only reason I'm including it in this video is because it sits on the shelf with my watercolours, and that is the Derwent Inktense travel packs or travel sets. There are two and they have different colours in each of them. Now, I wasn't given a colour chart with my number 2 palette, which is fine. I'm fine with it. But basically they come with this little insert and it's already swatched out, but I like to swatch them out myself. And as you can see, they've got quite a balanced palette of colours. They also come with these little sponges and these portable water brushes with plugs in them, so you can fill these up with water and take them away with you, and then you can unscrew that stopper and screw the brush top on, and then you have a working water brush for when you want to do your arting, and then you can just put it all back together. So they're great. I've had this one away with me a couple of times. As you can tell, the sponge is pretty dirty. So that's kind of like the setup. You've got mixing pans here as well. You know, you've got space to mix colours as well. The main difference between these and watercolour paints is that once these dry, it is very difficult to move them. They're almost permanent once they're dry. So when you're working with them, you have to work quickly. They are a dye-based medium. So, you know, that's kind of, they behave, when you're actually working with them with water, they do behave like watercolour, but once they dry, that's it, you're done. So the good thing about that is you can paint over the top of these with another wet medium and you're not going to disturb your layer underneath as long as you've left it to dry properly. So that's an advantage of them. I really want to try this colour out here. It looks like a sort of tealy bluey colour. I haven't used this set at all. I have not had an opportunity to do that. Oh wow, look at that. And as you can see, the pigment is very, very intense, hence the you know, they're supposed to be ink and they're supposed to be intense, Inktense. That's the kind of thing you're looking at. You can water these down quite considerably to give you you know, a very delicate colour. So if I just take a bit of that orange there, if I just keep going over that and over that, you can see it's starting to water down now. So you can still get some quite delicate colours, and it's just a bit of, first of all, it's a little bit of practice, but also just deciding on what areas you're wanting to put the actual colour down in, and then just working them. Now, you do need to have reasonably good watercolour paper if you're going to do what I'm doing right now, because you're going to be using a reasonable amount of water. I find it easier with a water brush than I do with a traditional brush. I don't know why. I prefer to use them with a water brush rather than a traditional brush. As I say, I just thought they were worth a mention before we actually got going with the good stuff. just because they sit on my shelf. These do also come in block format, which looks like a soft pastel stick, and you also get pencil versions as well. The colours are the same across all the ranges, so if you like a colour in the travel set, you will be able to find the equivalent in pencil form. The blocks are limited. I don't think you can get every colour in the blocks, but most of the popular colours for sure. So here we have the Winsor & Newton studio set. So this is the largest set of the Cadmium paints that Winsor & Newton do. This is my little swatch chart that sits in there like this. The Winsor & Newton paints, Winsor & Newton are a very reputable company. They're quite popular as well. I like their stuff because it's easy to get hold of in the UK. There's no problems with trying to get replacements and new pans and things. So yeah, the Cadmium set, these are the student grade paints. They are surprisingly light fast, and I was quite shocked. I did do a comparison video on the professional paints versus the student grade paints. I'll link that for you in the end card and down in the description if you want to check that out later. I am surprised by the number of these that are light fast. They are not the best paints in the world. I've tried now more expensive paints, but this is my go-to palette because I know it very well. It's like a comfy pair of slippers, and you can see the state of particularly the sap grade. It's been well used, but the colour's reasonably good. And I would say for the price of them, they are quite nice watercolours. Especially if you're a beginner or you're maybe newer to watercolour or you're simply on a budget, these will do a job for you, absolutely no problem. Viridian Hue is quite a nice colour. You can see that they're quite pigmented, they're not terrible. And I actually still really enjoy using these paints. Like I really do. Very much indeed. And I still go back to them every now and then. If I'm looking for basic flat colours, you know, I don't want anything fancy going on, then I know that these are reliable. I was talking to a lady at one point, and it was quite a while ago, and she said she's had a set of Cadmium paints since she was in her early 20s, and she's now of a pensionable age, and she still has a picture hanging on her wall that she painted 25 years ago, and it was with Cadmium paints, and it's not faded at all. So I thought that was quite interesting and a testament to what's going on. So here's a Cadmium Red Hue as well. So again, you can see you can get that nice delicate colour, or you can get this more vibrant colour as well. And I have to say as well that the Cadmium paints, they lift really, really easily as well. So if that's a technique that you like to use in your watercolour, they work really well with that. I just think it's a nice, well-rounded set. There's certain colours that I don't use. It annoys me that they always give you a white. Now, not only that, this is the original set of extra or replacement pans that they give you, and one of them is a white as well. They could quite easily have taken that out and given us another colour that's better. You know, the others make sense. There's a yellow ochre, an alizarin crimson, an ultramarine, and an ivory black. So they're colours you would imagine that people will use on a fairly regular basis. But white, really? I haven't used the one that's there, let alone the spare one. So that kind of irked me a wee bit. But apart from that, I think it's a really well-rounded set of paints. Okay, so I think for the tradition of what we're doing, I'm going to take my Julia picture here. And I do think it's only fair and right that I put a layer of sap green down. Hello, my old friend. So I think we'll use it for the first layer in this bush in behind here. How's that? How does that sound? If you're curious as well, guys, this brush that I'm using is the Jackson's Quill brush. I have mentioned it in a video before, and it was actually Julia that put me onto this brush. It's a synthetic sable brush, and I've tried similar ones of these before. So the other one that I've tried was the Pro Art one, which is here, and this is just better quality, and they're quite affordable brushes as well. The one that's in my hand is the smallest size that they do, so if you're looking for teeny weeny brushes, then you're out of luck. But because of the very delicate point in this, you can do some pretty finicky work with it. I'm not really taking much time over this for obvious reasons, because I've got a bajillion sets of paints to get through. But I just thought it would be quite nice if we had like even a sort of rudimentary watercolour picture by the time we were finished. Right, I'll just pop that off to the side just now. So yeah, that's the Cotman sets. You don't have to buy the 45 set. You know, they do smaller ones which are perfectly adequate, but you know, why not? So yeah, I would say that this is like my base go-to half decent watercolours. This is your boy. Plus as well, replacement pans or tubes, if you rather have tubes, are easily, as I said back at the start, they're easy to get a hold of here in the UK and they're not too expensive. The other thing I've got here, the paints aren't in here, but this was the Windsor and Newton travel set, and there was a set of professional paints in here. I've got them in another palette, so we'll get to that in a minute. But this is a great little device. I've only taken this away with me once. I have taken it out to the garden with me during the summer though and painted outside, and it was great. So you've got something to hold your water in here. You've got this travel paintbrush, which I haven't used, but it's so dinky, it's so cute, and it's very delicate, which I like. This is your, I call it the hip flask. It has had Jack Daniels in it before as well. Let's not talk about that. Yes, so you can stick your water in there, and obviously you can scoosh it out into your little top here. Then this all folds out, so you've got two palettes here, and then the colours are normally sat in here. So it'll take up to 12 half pans, which I think is great. Like you really don't need any more than 12 half pans. And also a little sponge there just so you can stick your brush in it and give it a little squidge off. So I think this is a great set. Now apparently, I don't know this to be fact, but apparently you can get this travel kit with Cotman colours in it. So even if you're just interested in the kit aspect of it, obviously buying a Cotman one would be a lot cheaper than buying the professional paints. But yeah, it's really good, and it's got a thumb thingamabobbery if you're one of them, which I am not. But yeah, I just thought that was worth mentioning too. So that's really handy, but we'll go on to the actual paints in just a second. Okay, so here is my first tin. This is like a mishmash of different paints, and I just keep them all in here to keep them safe. So you can see here the Winsor Newton professional paints that I was just talking about are down this side here. So it's the first three in every row. And that was the set that came with that travel kit. The stuff on this side, so the last three in every row, are the Van Gogh paints, and these are ones that came in tubes, and I found I didn't like them in tubes, so I've put them into pans. So I've got quite a nice wee selection of colours there. I haven't swatched all of these out for the tin because I tend to move them about depending on if I get more of the same brand. But they're all swatched in a swatch book somewhere. They're not necessarily with the actual paints. And this middle section is the Daniel Smith colours. So the Daniel Smith paints are the most recent paints that I've come into contact with. Oh my god. And I haven't really had a chance to use them, if I'm honest. So I can't tell you a huge amount about how I feel about them, but they are highly regarded paints, and they do come in some quite interesting colours as well. They've got good light fastness, and a lot of people have said to me they feel that they are superior quality paints to a lot of everything else on the market. I wouldn't trust my judgment on that if I were you guys, because as I say, I've not really used them enough. What I have noticed is though that I instantly fell in love with a couple of colours, and the first one is the Kyanite Genuine, which is this one here, and it is like an indigo, but it's got a very, very slight sparkle in it, and I am in love with it. After green, that sort of indigo shade is my absolute favourite colour. So I just want to give you a quick swatch here of some of the ones in this tin. So the first one I want to show you is the Winsor and Newton colours, because they are absolutely outstanding compared to the Cotman colours. So this is the professional grade of the same company. Again, in the comparison video, it becomes very obvious when I'm actually painting a picture of the difference in them, although they both feel like good quality paints. Other than that, in the professional set, the pigmentation is much better. That's really the bottom line. The light fastness, there's a few more colours that have a better light fastness rating than the Cotmans, but there's actually not a lot in it. So if light fastness isn't an absolute deal breaker for you, I would actually recommend getting the Cotman paints as a starting point, you know, if it's a brand that you're wanting to try out. So let's move to the Daniel Smith paints here, and as I say, I'm going to grab this Kyanite Genuine because it is just the absolute beans. It really is. I've never been so excited about a paint in my life. The one thing I can say for this paint is that it layers very well. You know, if you want to go over it and over it and over it, it seems to stick quite well. You know, you can still manipulate it and you can still move it around, but it's not easily disturbed. So if you like to layer different colours over the top, or you just like a more layered look to your watercolour, I find that they're quite good for that. And that was the one thing that I liked about them when I first tried them. As I say, I haven't really painted a huge amount with them, if I'm honest, so I can't really, you know, I can't be like the oracle about these paints. But this colour's it's just amazing. And I can get... Jock's just come through to see what I'm doing. Hi Jock, are you coming into the cave? We're eagerly awaiting the arrival of Mama and Papa Jem. I think they've sensed that something's going on. And you're not going to see the full sort of brunt of it or the full extent of it until it's dry. And then I'll give it a wee tilt for you in the light because you'll be able to see that little bit of sparkle. This feels like such a weird video today, guys. Like, it really does. It's just not anything. I'm not really, aside from the haul videos, which I really enjoy doing for obvious reasons, I'm not really one for stuff like this because I'm not really a look at what I've got kind of person, because that's not really what I wanted to do this video for, but all of you wanted to see. So if this isn't your thing, I'm sorry. It's just, but this feels quite odd to me. Anyway, I digress. On to the Van Gogh paints. I got tubes of these in a scroller box at one point, and I think that was where it started, and then somebody sent me some as well. One of the things, I wasn't all that bothered about these paints, to be honest. They are quite affordable. Again, there's nothing wrong with them, but they just didn't really excite me. I was like, okay, this is like bog standard watercolour paint. And the pigment's nice enough, but one thing I did find with these is they didn't behave well straight out the tube. And I've found since putting them into a palette and letting them dry out, and then obviously having to reactivate them with water, that they play better with just me in general. So I have been informed also by our watercolour guru, MJ Pete, that it's quite common for paints, watercolour paints to be like that, and most of them really aren't meant to be used out the tube. But you can see, I mean, the colour's vibrant enough, and it's fairly mobile in the water as well. There's quite a lot of room for manipulation with these paints as well. So I think this is purely just down to preference. I mean, I don't own any watercolours that I can turn around and say, these are rubbish, don't touch them. I think it is just down to preference though, and obviously it's my job to test stuff like this out so that you can make an educated decision. So there we go, that is that. So that's my kind of hodgepodge tin, but I just thought that was worth pointing out as well. Now, in addition to the half pans of Daniel Smith colours that I've also got one of these dot sheets. And this is just a selection of all the colours that are available. It's not every single one. There is a bigger sheet than this, but I've got the 66 dots. It's quite nice because you can have a wee dip in some colours that you maybe can't justify buying a tube of the stuff. So I thought that was quite nice to have, especially the more sort of like iridescent colours. And there's one here called Interference Green, and it's like a pale, almost like minty green, which I'm quite excited about. I need to find a use for it, like an actual painting to put it in. Also, this wisteria colour is just lovely as well. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of just an extra. I would use this probably more for details, but it's nice to be able to test them out because the Daniel Smith watercolours are quite expensive to buy compared to the likes of your Cotman colours. Okay, so this was a little tin sent to me. The Van Gogh colours were sent to me by Tracy because they came in this tin. Obviously I've moved things about, and I just absolutely love stuff like this. And this has got a little mixing tray in it, which is just absolutely fab. And here are the Schmincke Academy colours. Now again, some of these were sent to me. And again, these are student grade paints, so you would be comparing these to the likes of your Windsor and Newton Cotman colours. And I am genuinely impressed with these paints. They are really, really nice. And when I first tried them, I also had some of the Schmincke Watercolours, which is the artist grade range. And honestly, I could not tell the difference. I could not tell the difference. So again, I did a comparison video for these as well, for the Academy versus the Horadam. So I'll link that down in the description. And if I've got room on the end card, I'll put it on the end card too. There isn't a huge amount of difference until you start painting, but if you are new to watercolour or you just haven't found, you know, the brand that suits you yet, then you're not going to be shortchanged by the Academy range at all. They really are. They're excellent for the money, and some people just can't justify spending the money on the artist grade Schmincke's, which is the Horadam, and they are, especially if you're in the UK, they are super expensive. So that takes me on to what I call the big boys. This is my lovely, beautiful Schmincke tin. Isn't it delightful? And you can see it's very sad looking and empty, and that's because these paints are a fortune. Again, I haven't really done an awful lot of painting with these. Like, I actually haven't. But I find them a little bit more agreeable than the Academy paints. They just... This is a set of paints. I quite often, when I'm painting with watercolour, I quite often talk about how the paint feels on the brush and feels under my hand. And I like the feel of the Schmincke paints. Now I don't know whether that's useful information for you or not. It's probably not. But I just love that they feel very velvety and just very smooth to use, and like, I don't know, it's like a violin serenading somebody or an ice skater, you know, gliding across the ice. I'm right, I can't think of anything else, but it just feels good, okay? It feels good. It feels good. The paint is good. They're really vibrant. They're incredibly nice, and their earth tones are absolutely amazing. And I'm just going to give you a little demonstration of this here. Let's add it to our Julia picture. Okay, so let's have it as a base layer for the porch. And this will go a long, 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 long way. It's just insane. Absolutely insane. So if you're looking for good earth tones, I'm a huge fan of these. Yes, just yes, okay? Better grab this wee porch bit here before it all goes wrong. And also as well, the lifting properties of the Schmincke paint's really good as well. If I just give you a demonstration there. And again, for someone like me who's not a painter, I don't care what you all say, I'm still not a painter, that being able to lift paint that easily is a huge advantage, because I make a lot of mistakes and decide I don't want things in certain places. And yeah, so that's been a bit of a godsend. I would like to spend more time with these Schmincke paints. I've not been doing a lot of watercolouring recently for various reasons, but this is one. These and the Daniel Smiths are the two sets of paints I really want to spend a bit more time with and just sort of get to know them. So there we go, that is our Schmincke paints. So as you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, unlucky 13. I only have 13 colours, but 13's plenty when it comes to watercolour. You definitely don't need any more than that to create a picture. I think just because we were in the little Altoids tin, which I love, 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 love. I've got a thing about tins. I really enjoy tins. They're everywhere in my house, but they've all got things in them. I don't just keep them for decoration. They have to have a use. This was the one, I remember this one because it was quite recently. This was sent to me by Nina Ferry, who stays in Spain, but she is Scottish, so we get on quite well. We've got the same silly sense of humour. And she sent me over this little, this beautiful little set. And these are, first of all, quarter pans. How cute are those? How cute are they? They are so cute. These ones on the left, these are handmade and they've got lavender in them and they make this whole tin smell amazing. I absolutely love this. I love it, love it, love it. And I'm just going to show you this, this really dark, it's like a charcoal grey colour. We'll maybe I've smudged that. Oh no, oh no. Maybe use this a little bit in the stones. And I love this because you can get such a delicate colour with it, and there's a wee bit of granulation in there as well, which is a really nice touch. And you can just add, you know, you can keep dabbing away at this and adding very gradually, and you get that nice sort of texture in it. Anyway, Españoletos are, they're made in Spain. I think they're the last handmade paints in Spain, she told me. But again, absolutely in love with the greens. These greens are just absolutely delightful. And I'm just going to have a quick rumble about with this one because, because I like it very much. And again, not a paint, or should I say a set of paints I've spent a huge amount of time with. I've had a play about with them, but I haven't done any sort of serious painting with them. And I'm probably not likely to until the new year now. I am very much focused on getting Enchanted Forest finished because I am so close, but I've still got a lot of work to do if I want to get it done in time for the end of the year. So, but look at that colour, isn't it just lovely? So that's a lovely little set that I've just got, and I think this is probably one of my favourites because I know this is, especially these Españoletos, there's not going to be a lot of people that have got these. So I feel very privileged to have this set, and the fact that it's in this cute little tin is just amazing. This was the very first set of paints I ever had, and they were bought for me by Mama and Papa Jem for my birthday. And these are the Gansai Tambi watercolours. Now, the first thing that you'll notice about this is that the pans are absolutely gigantic. I think these are actually, if I just take a half pan for reference, that's probably a good idea. So you can almost fit 3 of those in there. Now, to be fair, these pans aren't filled. Oh, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. They're not filled. They're not filled all the way up to the edge, so there is that, but there's still a heck of a lot of paint in these. So that's the first difference. The second thing about these paints is, and again I found this out a lot later on, these do not behave like traditional Western watercolours. Gansai Tambi are part of Kuretake, it's a Japanese company. I found this out through various sources, but these paints are originally designed to be used on the likes of rice paper and not traditional watercolour paper. Unfortunately for me, I learned this after I'd tried to paint with them, and it was maybe part of the reason that I struggled with watercolour so much at the beginning, because I was following tutorials that were using you know, more traditional Western style watercolour, and I was frustrated because the paint wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So this may have been a factor. I still really like these paints and I'm never going to let go of them. One thing I was meaning to do a long time ago, and look at this turquoise colour, a long time ago, was to actually paint something on rice paper with these just to see how differently they behave. I do find them a lot less mobile. They still move about and everything, but the paint doesn't travel the same. It's just not as happy to shift its little backside. And I feel that it feels almost quite inky sometimes. And you can get really nice defined lines with them as well. So they do have their place. I mean, they are still watercolour, but I wouldn't recommend these as a beginner. This is not a good place to start if you're new to watercolour. This is for later on. This has kind of spurred me on to maybe do a video and try the rice paper. There is a bigger set than this as well, and they do include some other colours, of which I have here. These are the Gansai Tambi Starry Colors. So if you buy the bigger set of their watercolours, you do get a couple of these in with them. I don't know if it's all of them, but you can see it's the same size of pans. They're blinking massive. This was the very first set of watercolours I ever got, ever. These came in my very first scroller box, and I absolutely love these paints. I use them quite a lot, and as you can see, I've hardly made a dent in them, so they do last ages. And these colours are just absolutely amazing. And again, just because of the type of paint that it is, it's really easy to get a nice concentrated details on door handles and these kind of things. But we just give them gold trim in their house. Why not? But yeah, you can really layer this up. And because it doesn't really like to move about, like I was just talking about, it makes it great for small areas. If you get it quite not neat, obviously you need to put some water in it, but if it's not very diluted, it kind of reminds me of the gold gel pens that you get. You know, like the Uniball Signal. That's when you're putting it down, if you've got the paint thick enough, that's kind of like how it behaves and what it reminds me of. So these paints are really good for doing intricate work. I just love them. And you see, you have this range of colours as well. They do gem colours and they do pearlescent ones as well. And you can buy them in these separate sets of 6 if you're not game for, you know, wanting to buy a full set of paints. And I think they work particularly well for colourists because you may not necessarily want the more traditional sort of boring colours in inverted commas because you would be doing them in pencil anyway. But these shimmery ones they're really nice and they're really high quality paint as well. I say you get a buttload of paint. You're never going to run out of paint. So if I just tilt that, you can see how, oh yes, it's like super shiny. So I really enjoy these paints. I do keep meaning to go back to the original Gansai Tambi paints and try again and see if I can paint something with them now that I'm a wee bit more experienced. If you would like that as a video, I do have rice paper, I do have some. So if you would like that as a video, you can let me know down in the comments. That is not a problem. See, it's one of those videos that just never really sort of came to fruition, but it's still on the ideas list. It hasn't been thrown out. These are the Paul Rubens shiny paints, and I have to say I got these cheap. I was very lucky. I did not pay full price for these paints. The pearlescent colours are nice. They are nice. There's one or two that are quite nice. Aside from that, guys, I don't rate these paints at all. And there is a very specific reason why I'm not that keen on these and I don't use them very often. And that reason's name is Julia K of Julia K Art Studios. This is one of 2 palettes full of her paints, but these are the iridescent and metallic paints from her paint collection. So the first thing that you'll notice between the 2 palettes is that in the Paul Rubens set there is very little in the way of darker colours. There isn't a lot of depth to a lot of the colours is kind of what I'm getting at. They don't lay down particularly well, and just as a point in hand, I'm just going to take this colour here of Julia's, which is Viola, and I want to stick it next to their purples. So if I just hold this up here and then plonk that there. Now if I tilt that in the light, you can see the difference. Like here you can see so much of the paper through the shiny bits, whereas with Julia's paints there's none of that. You can really tell the difference that these are handmade and these are mass produced. There is nothing wrong with these paints. I find them a bit gimmicky and it's just like a bit of a novelty tin. These are the kind of paints I would let the kids paint with if they come to the house. I don't care for them that much. Again, there's some lovely colours in there, but given the choice of these or these, I would pick these every single time. So again, see, just for colouring books, these are great. Not a problem. I don't trust their light fastness. I don't even know how light fast they are. So these would have to be, I just don't use them. The tin's nice though if you like pink and it's got a little thumb hole as well. So yeah, I'm afraid I just don't really rate these. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about my favourite paints now. And I've deliberately kept these till the end because they are my favourite paints. Most of you are perfectly aware that I am in cahoots with Julia of Julia K Art Studio. As always, I'll leave a link to her Etsy store and her YouTube channel down in the description. Julia not only is a very talented You all right there, Jock? Not only is Julia a really talented watercolour painter, but she is also a very talented watercolour paint maker. And that is why I've got a problem now. Like, I actually have a problem. These are all Julia's stickers that she's painted herself and have been on sale in her shop at some point. So yeah, here's the this is all the pearlescent, iridescent, metallic colours, and as you can see we're kind of getting up there with them now. It's getting a bit out of hand. But not only that, originally the ones that were in here, which is the more traditional flat colours, were in a tin with the other ones, but I ran out of room, which is why I now have 2 tins. And here are the ones that are the more traditional colours. So you can see I've got a lot of filling in the gaps to do here, which is absolutely fine. It gives me an excuse to buy more paint. But the quality of them is amazing. They are made with honey, so some of them always feel a bit squishy. You know, it's as if they're not completely dried out, but apparently it's because they're handmade and it's the honey that's in the mixture. Like that Nightly is quite a squishy one. You can leave your, you know, your fingerprint in it, but it's not actually coming off on your skin. And Elof, this is one of my favourite colours. Gustav used to be my favourite green colour, and it is now Elof, just because I have no feasible reason for it, just because it's green. It kind of reminds me a little bit of mint chocolate chip ice cream. I think that's the thing, and I really like mint chocolate chip ice cream. I don't have to sit here and talk about Julia's paints. I mean, I talk about them all the time. I love them. The quality is absolutely amazing, and they feel wonderful to work with as well. And I like the fact that it's not just bog standard colours. It's like, oh, here's a violet, here's a black, there's always something interesting going on. And her Pretty Potions paints have been very popular. I'm just trying to dig out. Okay, so Draft of Peace, which is my favourite because it's that sort of, we're going into like inky blue there. Veritas Serum is like a light blue, but it's got a gold shimmer on it. If I just tilt these samples for you, you know, the swatches, should I say. Like, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And if you've not tried Julia's paints by now, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you doing? Just go and get some. 12 palettes. 8 different brands of paint in varying incarnations. I don't think I need any more watercolour paint, guys. Like, I really don't. I just hope that you found this interesting. I know some people won't really be into this type of video, which is fine, I understand. What I'm going to do now is I am going to clear all this up, and I'm just going to finish this little picture. I will post this on Instagram when I'm actually finished it, but I just wanted to show you the Daniel Smith paint at the top here. See if I just tilt that, you can see this, it's such a delicate sparkle. Right, that's it for today, guys. Thanks very much for watching. As always, appreciate your support. If you've got to this point, please give this video a thumbs up. That would be really helpful. Also, don't forget to go over to the Cave website and check out what's going on there, including the stash shop, because I'm putting new items into the stash shop regularly, including prints, original paints, as well as used art supplies that you'll have seen here on the channel. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe, and bye-bye for now.